வணக்கம் and good evening to everyone. So, நம்ம ஸ்ரீனிவாசன் சார் சொன்ன மாதிரி நீங்க there are 3 points which I would like to reiterate before we commence the program. Point number 1, உங்க mobiles please keep it in the silent mode so that ஏதாவது கால்ஸ் வந்ததுன்னா கூட இந்த செஷனுக்கு டிஸ்டர்ப் ஆகாது. செகண்ட் இஸ் ப்ளீஸ் கீப் யுவர் ஆடியோஸ் ஆன் மியூட் பொசிஷன். ஆடியோஸ் வந்து மியூட் பண்ணிடுங்க. பிகாஸ் என்ன ஆகும்னா இன்கேஸ் இஃப் யூ ஹேவ் நாட் மியூட்டட் யுவர் ஆடியோஸ் நம்ம டிரான்ஸ்மிஷன்ல டிஸ்டர்பன்சஸ் நிறைய இருக்கும். அண்ட் பாயிண்ட் நம்பர் 3, யூஸ் ஹெட்ஃபோன்ஸ் வைல் ஆஸ்கிங் கொஸ்டின்ஸ் ஆர் புட்டிங் questions on the chat box or interacting. Headphones use பண்ணுங்க so that there will not be much disturbance in the audibility. So நான் chat box open பண்றேன். I will be keeping my chat box always open. I will minimize the screen and I'll keep the chat box open so that any questions you have, you can always draft through the chat box so that on the time whenever we come across a question, I will try to answer those questions. Okay. ஒருவேளை நீங்க கேட்குற கொஸ்டின் அந்த டாபிக் இன்னும் முடியலன்னா ஐ வில் ஆன்சர் இட் லேட்டர். அந்த டாபிக் முடிஞ்சது பிறகு நீங்க கொஸ்டின்ஸ் கேட்டீங்கன்னா ஐ வில் ஆன்சர் யூ த கொஸ்டின். ஸோ ப்ளீஸ் கீப் இன் மைண்ட் எனி கிளாரிஃபிகேஷன், any queries or any doubts you have on foreign exchange, you can always seek clarification today. In case நீங்க இன்னைக்கு முடியலன்னா கூட I have given my coordinates at the end of the PowerPoint presentation. So நீங்க even through email or through phone கூட contact பண்ணலாம். Because the purpose of this session is to gain knowledge, not only for you, for me also. Because for me every session is an experience. நாங்க உங்களிலிருந்து கூட கத்துக்க வேண்டியது நிறைய இருக்கும். So it's both an interaction and a learning experience. So now we will go ahead with the program. So whenever we say foreign exchange, இன்னைக்கு I will be narrating on overview of international trade. Exports, what are the preliminary aspects that you need to keep in mind while initiating an export trade transaction? The international commercial terms, the payment terms and the regulatory guidelines. I also will give you some inputs on financing exports, that is both pre-shipment finance and post-shipment finance. And finally, we will have a small talk on hedging your export receivables and what are the relaxations that has been announced by the government during the COVID-19. So before I start, again I reiterate, any question you have on any of the foreign exchange topic, we can always address it today. நீங்க chat boxல போடலாம் உங்க questions. So in case நீங்க கேட்குற question, in case if I have already completed the narration of that, நான் திருப்பி repeat பண்றேன். In case நீங்க கேட்குற question இன்னும் நம்ம discuss பண்ணலைன்னா I will take it up at the appropriate time. So these are the 5 flow of sessions which I would like to handle today, because foreign exchange வந்து it's a very vast subject. நம்ம 1 hourல 2 hoursல 3 hoursல or rather even 6 hoursல கூட நம்ம முடிக்க முடியாது foreign exchange topics, because it's very vast. But keeping in mind the time constraints, I will give you the basic inputs and as an exporter, what is it that is important for you. So I will go ahead with the session now. So in case if there is any difficulty in audibility, in case if there is any problem in viewing my presentations, or if I am not having much clarity on whatever I am talking, you may please escalate through the question box. உங்களுக்கு புரியலன்னா திருப்பி ரிப்பீட் பண்றேன். audibility சரியில்லைன்னா கூட நீங்க சொல்லலாம், so that the coordinator and the moderators, they will try to see whether there are any technical issues involved. And if there is any other disturbance, like a screen சரியா வரல or subject நிறைய subject அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்ட் பண்ண முடியல, அந்த மாதிரி ஏதாவது இருந்ததுன்னா கூட you can put through the question box so that we will sort it out and see that the maximum output is delivered by me for the particular topic. So before I start, I thank the Export Promotion Center Madurai for giving me an opportunity under the pandemic situation. And now whenever we say trade and சொல்லும்போது, trade can be domestic trade or international trade. when we say domestic trade, buying and selling within the country, நம்ம within the country buying and selling பண்ணோம்னா that is called domestic trade. And domestic trade is generally facilitated through the underlying documents. So நம்ம any trade transaction, we talk about underlying documents. So what are the underlying documents? It can be a contract, it can be an agreement, it can be a LC, letter of credit, it can be a guarantee. So whenever buying and selling happens within the country, we call it domestic trade. And whenever buying and selling happens beyond the country, cross-border transactions and so on. So whenever a trade involves buying and selling cross-border, we call international trade. So exports and imports, they are international trade transactions. And again there, underlying documents and சொல்லி இருக்கு. Underlying documents are contracts, agreements, foreign letters of credits, SBLCs, that is standby letters of credit, and foreign bank guarantees. So நம்ம இன்னைக்கு பார்க்க போறோம் பேசிக்கா what are the things required அன்றது பார்க்க போறோம். So trade is nothing but buying and selling. If buying and selling happens within the country, we call domestic trade. And if buying and selling happens cross-border, we call international trade. Then what is foreign exchange? Foreign exchange refers to exchange of one currency against another. And any transaction denominated in foreign exchange, any transaction like a check, a bill, an export bill, an import bill, or a draft, bill of exchange and so on, deposits, letters of credit. So any transaction which is denominated in a foreign currency is determined as foreign exchange for all practical purposes. So நம்ம foreign exchange புரிஞ்சுக்கணும்னா we should understand who is an authorized dealer. An authorized dealer is one who is authorized by the Reserve Bank of India for handling foreign exchange transactions. So AD ன்னு சொல்லும்போது AD-ல 3 categories இருக்கு. AD Cat 1, Category 1, AD Category 2, and AD Category 3. AD Category 1 அண்ணா all scheduled commercial banks. All scheduled commercial banks like the government-owned banks, Canara Bank, State Bank of India, they are called government-owned banks. All private banks, Lakshmi Vilas Bank, Dhanalakshmi Bank, Catholic Syrian Bank, new generation private sector banks, Axis Bank, HCFC Bank, ICICI Bank, foreign banks, Standard Chartered Bank, Citibank, select cooperative banks. So இவங்க எல்லாம் சேர்ந்து they are called as scheduled commercial banks. And all scheduled commercial banks come under AD Category 1. And AD Category 1, that is authorized dealer Category 1, is authorized by Reserve Bank of India to handle all the foreign exchange transactions for their customers. Now AD Category 2, they are nothing but the full-fledged money changers, upgraded full-fledged money changers, whose role is only to buy and sell currency notes, only to buy and sell traveler's checks and travel cards. So AD Category 2, now for example, UAE Exchange, Thomas Cook, Wiseman Forex, EBIX Cash and சொல்லி இருக்கு இப்போ. Then Feroz Pramrose, Cox and Kings. So they are called as authorized dealers Category 2. அவங்க banks கிடையாது. They are called authorized dealers Category 2, and their role is to buy and sell currency notes, to buy and sell traveler's checks or travel cards. Suppose நீங்க வெளிநாட்டுக்கு போகணும்னா you can buy traveler's checks from AD Category 2 or from the bank. So AD Category 2 is upgraded full-fledged money changers who are authorized only to buy and sell currency notes, traveler's checks and travel cards. Now AD Category 3, authorized dealer Category 3 and all financial institutions, Exim Bank, SIDBI, IFCI, SBI Factors, Can Bank Factors, then ECGC, Export Credit Guarantee Corporation, then NABARD. So all financial institutions come under AD Category 3. So AD Category 3 and AD Category 2, their role is restricted, whereas AD Category 1, authorized dealer Category 1, that is banks are permitted by RBI to handle all the foreign exchange transactions. So this is the concept of authorized dealers. Now authorized dealer, நம்ம bank ன்னு சொல்லும்போது bankல branches இருக்கு. So that branches are again categorized. So when you say Canara Bank, Axis Bank, State Bank of India, Catholic Syrian Bank. So when we talk about any of the authorized dealer Category 1, they are again bifurcated. அவங்க branches வந்து 3 different categories. A category branch, B category branch, and C category branch. What is A category branch? A category branch is the dealing room of the bank. In other words, A category branch of the bank is authorized by RBI to maintain nostro accounts and ostro accounts. நீங்க கேள்விப்பட்டிருப்பீங்க. Nostro accounts அன்னா a foreign currency account maintained by a bank in India with a bank abroad. So உங்களுக்கு any remittance coming into the country for an exporter or any remittance going out of the country towards outward remittances should happen through the nostro channel. நம்ம nostro accounts ன்னு சொல்லுவோம். Nostro accounts அன்னா நம்ம layman languageல நீங்க SWIFT code ன்னு கேள்விப்பட்டிருப்பீங்க. So any bank which has to receive foreign exchange into the country, SWIFT code தேவை இருக்கு. என்ன nostro account is a foreign currency account maintained by a bank in India with a bank abroad. So suppose நீங்க Canara Bankல account இருக்கு உங்களுக்கு. So in case if you want to receive remittances through Canara Bank, you should know with whom Canara Bank is maintaining a nostro account. Dollars அன்னா USல maintain பண்ணணும், sterling அன்னா UKல maintain பண்ணணும், euros அன்னா Eurozone maintain பண்ணணும். So depending on the currency and the country, the nostro account is opened by the bank. So bank அன்னா யார் open பண்ணல nostro accounts? Only the dealing room of the bank. And that is called the A category bank. So A category branches are those branches which are authorized to maintain nostro accounts and ostro accounts. Ostro என்ன? Ostro na reverse. Ostro வந்து a foreign bank, a non-resident bank outside India maintaining a rupee account in India. So உங்களுக்கு suppose remittance வரணும்னா nostro accountல வரல or ostro accountல கூட வரலாம். So A category branches are those branches of the bank which are permitted to maintain nostro accounts and ostro accounts and deal in the interbank market. So நம்ம A category branch ன்னு சொல்ல போனா most of the banks they have only one A category branch across the country, and that is the dealing room, the trade finance center ன்னு சொல்லுவோம், the back office ன்னு சொல்றோம். So any bank in India has majority of the banks they have only one A category branch, and that is the dealing room, the trade finance center, the centralized trade finance center, or the back office operation. So all these are called A category branches of the bank. Now come to B category branch. B category branch anna these branches are allowed by RBI to handle exports and imports for the exporters and the importers. They are authorized by RBI to handle foreign exchange transactions for the customers. நம்ம AD code ன்னு சொல்லுவோம், authorized dealer code. Suppose say for example நீங்க மதுரையில you have an account with say Canara Bank. Canara Bank Grand Central is a authorized dealer code branch. That is, they are called as B category branches. B category branches anna they are authorized by RBI to handle foreign exchange transactions for their customers. So any bank, இப்ப நம்ம இந்தியால எடுத்துட்டாங்கன்னா many of the banks, most of the banks they have many number of B category branches. So இப்போ Canara Bank பாத்தீங்கன்னா 300 B category branches இருக்கு across the country. Axis Bank பாத்தீங்கன்னா 350 branches இருக்கு. SBI பாத்தீங்கன்னா around 300 branches இருக்கு. So all the banks have any number of B category branches to help the exporters and the importers handle their foreign exchange transactions. So நீங்க if you want to handle your forex transaction, உங்களுக்கு AD code தேவை இருக்கு, authorized dealer code, because நீங்க shipping bill file பண்ணும்போது or bill of entry file பண்ணும்போது AD code is mandatory. அது நான் subsequent slides-ல சொல்றேன். So they are called as B category branches. So B category branches are those branches which are authorized by Reserve Bank of India by giving them the AD code, authorized dealer code, permitting them to handle exports and imports, inward remittances and outward remittances. Now coming to C category. C category branch anna all other branches of the bank are termed as C category branches. இப்ப நீங்க மதுரையில ஞானவழிபுரம் இருக்கு, Canara Bank ஞானவழிபுரம், they are not B category branch. நீங்க அங்கே எக்ஸ்போர்ட்ஸ் ஹேண்டில் பண்ண முடியாது. கோம்பை இருக்கு, உத்தம்பாளையம் இருக்கு, சின்னமனூர் இருக்கு. So இங்கே these are the branches which are called C category branches. They are not authorized to handle any forex transactions. But ஒருவேளை ஒரு exporter or an importer, if they have an account with Chinnamanur branch or if they have an account with Andipatti branch, they have to handle their forex transactions through the nearest B category branch. It can be Periyakulam irukla or Madurai irukla or Bodinayakanur irukla. So B category branch is one which is authorized by RBI to handle transactions for the foreign exchange customers, and C category branches is one which is not authorized. நீங்க accounts வச்சுக்கலாம், you can have your accounts with C category branches, but your forex transactions will get handled at the B category branches, because B category branchesல மட்டும் தான் SWIFT facility இருக்கு. SWIFT ன்னா it's a society, it's a platform, Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. நீங்க ஸ்விஃப்ட் கோடுன்னு கேள்விப்பட்டிருப்பீங்க. ஸோ உங்களுக்கு பணம் உள்ளே வரணும்னா ஆர் நீங்க வெளியே அனுப்பணும்னா அந்த பெனிஃபிஷியரோட ஸ்விஃப்ட் கோட் தெரிஞ்சாகணும். ஸ்விஃப்ட் கோட் இல்லைன்னா பணம் இன்வர்ட் ரெமிட்டன்ஸ் வர முடியாது, அவுட்வர்ட் ரெமிட்டன்ஸ் செய்ய முடியாது. ஸோ தட் ஸ்விஃப்ட் கோட் இஸ் அவைலபிள் only with the B category branches. Now we will come to the preliminary aspects. இப்போ exports அண்ணா starts with what all. So I will take this session from the basic concept. Again, I reiterate, ஏதாவது disturbance இருந்ததுன்னா in the terms of my session or wherever you feel that you have not understood the concept or wherever you have not, it is not clear, audio is not clear or screen is not visible, நீங்க question answer in the chat box please represent or raise a query so that we will sort it out. Now exports அண்ணா சொன்ன உடனே opening of bank account is mandatory because as per the FEMA regulations, any remittance coming into the country or any remittance going out of the country should go through the account only. So இப்போ என்ன இருக்கு, opening of a bank account. சில பேர் நீங்க பார்த்திருப்பீங்க, there was a RBI circular 3 days back wherein RBI has revised the guidelines for opening of current accounts. Now RBI is telling that any customer who is having credit facilities can not open current accounts with other banks. அதாவது சப்போஸ் உங்களுக்கு SBIல கிரெடிட் ஃபெசிலிட்டி இருக்குன்னு வெச்சுக்கோங்க. கிரெடிட் ஃபெசிலிட்டினா CCOD or LC limits, guarantee limits. So wherever a customer has credit facilities with a bank, he cannot open current account with any other bank. So that is the instruction given by RBI on 6th August 2020. So opening of a bank account where bank will carry out a due diligence. Due diligence and bank will do their due diligence. Bank will do their KYC compliances. And bank will tell the customer, this is my authorized dealer code. So that is the first priority. Any exporter who wants to start an export transaction or who wants to start export business, point number 1, he should open a bank account, providing all the KYC documents to the bank. And இப்போ recent development என்னன்னா, in case if you have a credit facility with a particular bank, இன்னொரு bank ஓட current account open பண்றது, it's not permissible. Earlier என்ன சொன்னாங்க, prior to August 2020, RBI had told that customers can open accounts with any other banks, but no objection from the lending bank was required. But இப்போ அது கூட remove பண்ணிட்டாங்க. So any customer having credit facilities with a particular bank is now not permitted to open current account with any other banker. Now coming to the next one, importers exporters code certificate. So in the second point, any exporter who wants to start the export business should necessarily apply for the importers exporters code certificate issued by the DGFT, the Directorate General of Foreign Trade. So இங்கே it's a very simple procedure. ஒரு DGFT வெப்சைட்டுக்கு போய் நீங்க ஆன்லைன் அப்ளிகேஷன் ஃபில் அப் பண்ணணும். Application fill up பண்ணி you should obtain a letter from the bank. Once you have opened a current account with the bank will issue a letter telling that this is to certify that so and so is having a current account with me and his dealings are satisfactory. So in the letter வந்து upload பண்ணணும் DGFT siteல. So once you upload the application, the letter issued from the bank and your PAN card and your registration certificates like the shops and establishment certificates, the DGFT will issue the importers exporters code certificate. இங்கே திருவெங்கடராஜ் ஒரு கொஸ்டின் கேட்டிருக்கார், எக்ஸ்பென்ஷன் ஆஃப் நாஸ்ட்ரோ அண்ட் ஓஸ்ட்ரோ. இது நாஸ்ட்ரோ NOSTRO, இது அப்ரிவேஷன் கிடையாது. நாஸ்ட்ரோ இஸ் எ வேர்ட். நாஸ்ட்ரோ வந்து லாட்டின் வேர்ட். ஓஸ்ட்ரோ VOSTRO, இட்ஸ் எ லாட்டின் வேர்ட். ஸோ இது வந்து அப்ரிவேஷன் கிடையாது. நாஸ்ட்ரோ அண்ணா மை அக்கவுண்ட் வித் யூ, ஓஸ்ட்ரோ அண்ணா யுவர் அக்கவுண்ட் வித் மீ. ஸோ நாஸ்ட்ரோ அண்ணா a bank in India opening a foreign currency account with a bank abroad, that is called Nostro account. So any bank in India will be definitely having foreign currency accounts with the overseas banks, and that is called Nostro accounts. Canara Bank having with JP Morgan, Axis Bank having with Citibank New York. So that is called Nostro accounts. Vostro anna your account with me. Vostro வந்து an overseas bank, a non-resident bank having a rupee account in India, that is called Ostro account. So Nostro and Ostro, நான் next ஒரு slide இருக்கு, அதுல clear-ஆ explain பண்றேன் with example. Now, importers exporters code certificate by the DGFT is for import of goods or export of goods. Now, say for example, you are into export of software, you are into export of services. So wherever an exporter is into export of software, registration with STPI, Software Technology Park of India, is mandatory. And wherever you are exporting services, consultancy services, education services, hospitality services, medical services, so you have to register with the Service Export Promotion Council of India. So registration with Export Promotion Council, in case if you are a regular exporter or if you are an exporter. If you are into export of software, you have to register with the Software Technology Park of India. And if you are into service exports, you have to register with the Service Export Promotion Council. So avanga they will give what is called as the registration cum membership certificate. Now we give a thin line of difference is there. Wherever you are into import of export of goods and export of services, rendume irundhuduna, you are an exporter exporting goods also, say engineering goods, and you are into providing services also. So there you have to register with the DGFT also, obtain the IE code, and you have to register with the Service Exports Promotion Council and obtain the registration cum membership certificate. So that is the meaning of this. But wherever you are not into import of export of goods, you are only into export of software, then registration with STPI is required. Now நீங்க export ன்னு சொல்லும்போது export policy தேவை. You have to understand what is the foreign trade policy of the country. Again, foreign trade policy is a very elaborate subject. It's again very exhaustive subject. So in the session I'll just explain to you about the 3 points. Any exporter who wants to export the goods should not come under prohibited list. Prohibited list, there are some 56 to 57 commodities identified by the DGFT, Ministry of Commerce, which has been put in prohibited list. So you cannot touch this. So any exporter who is into export of goods, his goods should not come under prohibited list. Now restricted list, it's also called as negative list. So wherever you want to export the goods or import the goods coming under restricted list, a license from DGFT is required. இதுல ஒரு 190 to 195 commodities இருக்கு. In case if you want to export goods coming under restricted list, or if you want to import the goods coming under restricted list, license from DGFT is required. So other than prohibited and restricted list, you can export any goods, you can import any goods. So in today's foreign trade policy, it's very, very simple. First, prohibited list ponga. In case if you find any of the goods which you want to export or import comes under prohibited list, you cannot do it. Then you come to restricted list. If you want to import or export goods which is coming under restricted list, it requires a license. The third list, freely exportable or freely importable, adu list kadiyadu. There is no details of commodities. Goods not coming under prohibited list and goods not coming under restricted list, they are freely exportable and freely importable. And whenever as an exporter you are exporting, unga HS classification code is very important. You should know what is the code allotted by Ministry of Commerce for your particular goods. Ipo grapes nu solluvom. Grapes le seedless grapes irukku, seeded grapes irukku. Likewise you have apples. Apples la nariya varieties irukku. Likewise goods, engineering goods. Engineering goods la nariya varieties irukku. So when you are exporting a particular commodity, you should understand what is the HS classification code of that particular commodity. This is very important because there are incentives based on the HS classification of the code. So next slides varumbodhu na solren what is the importance of the HS classification code. Now next varudhu preliminary aspects. What are the preliminary aspects that as an exporter you need to look into? Many of you may be new exporters. Identifying the exporter buyer becomes very important. Identifying and assessing the credit worthiness of the overseas buyer. You have to do a KYC compliance. Nama banks le solluvom illa KYC compliance, know your customer. Adhe madri as an exporter you should know who is your customer. Your customer is an overseas buyer. So you have to do a KYC compliance on the overseas buyer before entering into any transaction with the overseas buyer. So how you know the overseas buyer? Generally enna agum, Buyers, you will get through references. Maybe your friends are exporting to him, so you get a reference from your friend. Or நீங்க Chambers of Commerce database-ல எடுத்துக்கலாம். Or you would have met him in some of the trade fairs abroad. Or the buyer has come to India and you have met him during his visit to India. So any exporter has to necessarily conduct a due diligence on the overseas buyer. இது எப்படி முடியும்? There is a agency called Dun and Bradstreet. Dun and Bradstreet it's one of the reputed agencies across the globe. They can provide opinion reports on the overseas counterparts. We have Experian in your firm. Experian UK firm. DNB US firm. So Experian இன்னொரு agency which can provide opinion reports on the overseas buyers. Banker's opinion report, that is the overseas buyer's banker can also provide report on his customer. So how you will obtain this? You can approach your banker, give the details of the buyer to your banker. உங்க bank என்ன பண்ணுவாங்க? They can send an email communication to either DNB or to Experian or to banker overseas to get a report on the overseas buyer. And this is a very exhaustive report which gives the entire history of the overseas buyer. This is very important as an exporter. So இது ஒரு one time exercise நீங்க பண்ணலாம். நீங்க DNB மூலமா டைரக்டா அப்ரோச் பண்ணலாம். You can approach DNB directly. You can approach Experian directly. But அவங்க charges அதிகமா இருக்கும். Report. But நீங்க banks approach பண்ணீங்கன்னா maybe 5,000 to 8,000, 5,000 to 6,000 will be the charges, and it's a one-time report. So this will give you some indication on the overseas buyer. Otherwise, how you will sort out your buyer? You can visit personally to the buyer's location. பணம் இருந்ததுன்னா you can go and visit the overseas buyer also. But நிறைய பேருக்கு அந்த தகுதி இருக்காது, அந்த இது இருக்காது. Credit worthiness may not be there. It's costly also. So always go through a DNB report or a Experian report or a banker's opinion report, or through your other connections like the Chambers of Commerce, the trade bodies, the export promotion centers, the FIEOs. அவங்க மூலமா கூட போலாம். You can get a reference on the overseas buyers' nature of business. Then next comes sanctions. As an exporter, you should understand whether there are any sanctions on the buyer's country. So FATF ன்னு சொல்லுவோம். FATF ன்னா Financial Action Task Force. இது FATF is an intergovernmental organization where 39 countries are members of this FATF. நம்ம country கூட one of the members of FATF. So FATF என்ன? Financial Action Task Force. What is their role? Their role is to combat money laundering and to downsize or to arrest terrorism financing. So the role of Financial Action Task Force is to combat money laundering and terrorism financing. So there are 37 countries across the globe and two councils are European Union and the General Gulf Cooperation Council. இவங்க ரெண்டு councils and 37 countries. They are members of FATF, and India also is one of the members of FATF. But what is the role of FATF? They have given recommendations. They have given 40 recommendations on money laundering and 9 recommendations on terrorism financing, which has to be adhered to by all the countries across the globe. நீங்க member ஆலைன்னா கூட you have to adhere to the recommendations of the FATF. So there are two countries which are not adhering to the recommendations, and they are Iran and North Korea, and they are called blacklisted countries. So these two countries are blacklisted by the entire globe. So wherever you are transacting with these two countries, trade is not permissible. But there is one flexibility here. They have allowed import of oil and medicines, export and import of medicines to these two countries. That is permissible. So other than this, Iran and North Korea are blacklisted. Now gray list ன்னு சொல்லி இருக்கு, இன்னொரு லிஸ்ட் இருக்கு. Under FATF blacklisted countries ரெண்டு countries இருக்கு. Gray listed countriesல there are 18 countries under gray list, where Pakistan also is one of the countries. So what is the role of these gray listed countries? They are members of this FATF. They are abiding by the FATF guidelines, but either directly or indirectly they are not cooperating with the FATF recommendations. So whenever you are identifying a buyer overseas, you have to ensure that the buyer is not either in the blacklist or in the gray list or in the OFAC list. OFAC வந்து Office of Foreign Assets Control. இது வந்து US, United States has imposed sanctions on 4 countries. Primary sanctions சொல்லுவோம். அந்த 4 countries என்னன்னா Iran, Sudan, Syria and Cuba. So US has imposed sanctions on 4 countries, Iran, Sudan, Syria and Cuba. So any trade happening with these 4 countries are not permissible other than essential goods and essential items and medicines. These are called primary sanctions. So whenever as an exporter, you are identifying a buyer overseas, you have to ensure that your buyer is not from any of these countries. But நீங்க medicines export பண்ணீங்கன்னா அது allowed, that is exempted. Medicines are exempt from this sanctions list. Now there's a question from Soundararajan Loganathan. My uncle regularly exporting yarn to Iran. So இது Iran வந்து it is under sanctions by US. Okay, and it is blacklisted by FATF. So wherever you are exporting or importing from Iran, it should not be in foreign currency. The export should happen only in Indian rupees. So in the sanctions varumbodhu, many of the exporters, they represented to the government. They represented that I am exporting to Iran, I am importing from Iran. For that matter, government imports oil from Iran, India imports oil from Iran. So the FATF and the OFAC exempted essential items and medicines. Now coming to Iran per se, Government of India has, through Reserve Bank of India, designated 2 banks, United Commercial Bank and IDBI Bank. So these are the 2 banks under which you can handle your exports or imports from Iran or to Iran. And keep in mind, the exports and imports should be only in Indian rupees. இது foreign currency la பண்ண முடியாது. It should be only in Indian rupees to facilitate trade community in India to deal with Iran. So whenever you have a buyer in Iran, the invoicing is only in rupees. Whenever you have a supplier in Iran, the invoicing is only in rupees. So there is no question of a foreign currency involved in this transaction. So if somebody is exporting yarn to Iran, the invoicing is only in rupees. Okay, now we'll come to the next point. As an exporter, initiating the discussion with the buyer. So once you have opened the bank account, once you have obtained the importers exporters code certificate, once you have completed registration with the necessary export promotion council, sanctions ella paathachi, DNB report obtain panniyachi, or you have taken the report either from trade bodies or from references to your friends. Now you start discussion, initiating the discussion with the overseas buyer. So you may receive an inquiry. Discussion anna eppadi, either you will receive an inquiry from the buyer, or you will send a quotation to the overseas buyer, or you will receive a purchase order from the overseas buyer, or you will raise an export order on the overseas buyer. Anything is possible. Or you execute an agreement, you execute a contract. So this is called underlying documents. So when you are initiating the discussion, what is the subject matter? Subject matter is goods or services, or if you are into software exports. So here when it comes to goods, you have to discuss with the overseas buyer how movement of goods will take place. எப்படி export பண்ணணும், whether it is through air, whether it is through sea, whether it is through land. If you are exporting to Bangladesh, it goes through land. If you are exporting to Pakistan, it goes through land. It goes through railways. So you have to discuss about whether the export should happen through the port, in which case you should know which is the port of origin, which is a port of destination. Landlocked countries and சொல்லி இருக்கு. When you are exporting to countries like Sweden, you have to necessarily route through a port and also air. So this subject matter should be understood while initiating the discussion. How movement of goods will take place, what is the port of origin and port of destination, if it is through air, which is the airport in India, and which is the overseas airport where you have to send the goods. In case of landlocked countries, how the goods will move. So இதெல்லாம் நீங்க initiate பண்ணணும். This discussion has to be initiated with the overseas buyer. Then procuring raw materials. Once you have decided on this, procuring raw materials and production of goods as per the specifications. So whatever is understood, whatever is agreed to in the purchase order or in the agreement or in the contract, this has to be necessarily adhered to by the exporter in concurrence with the overseas buyer. So once the agreement is executed, once the contract is entered into, once the purchase order is signed, once the export order is signed by the overseas buyer, when we say the purchase order or the export order, even email communication also is valid. In today's context, electronic media, documents and agreements coming through electronic media also is permissible. So your agreement can come through email also, your contract can be executed, and your purchase order can be communicated through email also. So once everything is understood between the terms and conditions of the exporter and the overseas buyer, you procure raw materials and start manufacturing the goods as per the specifications. And again, you have to talk to your buyer about inspection, whether he requires a pre-inspection of the goods which you have exported by the reputed agencies. சில டைம் என்ன ஆகுன்னா பையர் சொல்லுவாரு, என்னோட ஆத்தரைஸ்ட் இன்ஜினியர் மதுரையில இருக்கார், அவர் வந்து இன்ஸ்பெக்ட் பண்ணுவாரு. பிஃபோர் யூ ஷிப் த கூட்ஸ் ஷுட் பி இன்ஸ்பெக்டட் பை மை ஆத்தரைஸ்ட் இன்ஜினியர். தட் மே பி ஒன் டர்ம்ஸ் அண்ட் கண்டிஷன்ஸ் இன் த கான்ட்ராக்ட். Sometimes he may say, I want origin of goods to be certified. So certificate of origin should be obtained. So generally certificate of origin is authenticated by the chambers of commerce. எதுக்குன்னா அவனுக்கு the overseas buyer might get some tariff concessions. Indiaல இருந்து exports அண்ணா the overseas buyer from in his country, he will get some concessions under his import regulations. So இது discuss பண்ணணும் நீங்க. When you are entering into a contract and initiating a discussion with the overseas buyer, you have to talk about the pre-inspection. ஏதாவது pre-inspection பண்ணணுமா? Who will do the pre-inspection certificate? Whether a government agency should do, a government authority should do. Obtaining of certificate of origin. Now there is a question from Muhammad Haroon. Is this lockdown period, what type of payment terms are practically possible now with banks? Advance or LC or DA or DP? இது வந்து நான் flow charts இருக்கு எனக்கிட்ட. When I come to a later part of the session, I will explain you with a flow chart which is beneficial. Now, once you have understood the terms and conditions, now comes ascertaining the exchange rates from the bank. நீங்க order execute பண்ணும்போது, you have to call up your banker and ask, sir, எனக்கு dollar rate என்ன இருக்கு? எதுக்குன்னா, when you are talking to the overseas buyer, you may sell the goods on site basis, what we call as documents against payment, or you may export the goods under usance basis, credit basis, we call documents against acceptance. So when the buyer wants a credit facility from you, when the buyer says na 90 days அப்புறம் pay பண்றேன், na 120 days அப்புறம் pay பண்றேன், if the buyer wants a credit facility from the exporter, you have to find out what is the exchange rate as on today and what is the exchange rate you are going to get after 90 days or 120 days or 180 days, because there is a exchange risk involved. Hedging of your exchange risk is to be done by booking forward contracts. So இது கடைசியில வரேனா hedging அண்ணா என்னன்னு சொல்லி. So you have to ascertain the rate of exchange from the bank to find out to price your order. ஏன்னா நீங்க இன்னைக்கு எக்ஸ்போர்ட் பண்றீங்க, எப்போ ஃபாரின் கரன்சி வருது, when you are getting foreign exchange into the country, அன்னைக்கு the rate of exchange may be different. So in case the dollar is at premium, you may have to book a forward contract. If you have allowed credit period to the overseas buyer, you may have to book a forward contract. So idella first you have to ascertain, because unga pricing is based only on this. Next comes packing the goods. Now the importer would have told, the overseas buyer would have told, pack. Suppose for example gherkins, when you are exporting gherkins should be put in Weingart solutions. So the overseas buyer may say, you put in plastic drums, or you put in drums which do not spoil the vegetable. So, and the packing specification should be ensured as per the terms and conditions of the contract. So, idu kuda neenga discussion. Then comes to policy. ECGC, Export Credit Guarantee Corporation of India, has certain policies. If you are availing finance from the bank, wherever you are availing export finance from the bank will cover with ECGC, and that is called whole turnover packing credit guarantee or whole turnover post shipment guarantee. That is, wherever you are availing finance from the banks will take on their own the policy from ECGC for default of the buyer, default of the country. Now, wherever you are not going for bank finance, you will not take finance from the bank. So wherever you are not going for finance from the bank, you can obtain a buyer-wise policy from ECGC, covering the default of the buyer, the default of the country. So idu kuda neenga first ascertain pannu. You have to find out what is the premium to be paid on the policy, because that goes to build in your cost of the product. Next comes finally the pricing of goods. What are the commercial terms you need to look into, and what are the payment terms you need to look into. So these are all the various concepts which you have to do at the preliminary stage. That's the reason why we call preliminary aspects for an exporter to look into the transactions. Now coming to commercial terms. When we say commercial terms, these are called INCO terms, International Commercial Terms 2020. In the 2020 one, it's revised from 1st January 2020. Prior to this, we had 2010. Then what are the payment terms? Now, Incoterms na andalukku detail edukka matte because I was told that you have already covered this Incoterms through some other session. So, Incoterms vande it defines the responsibilities and obligations of the buyer and the seller. That means it defines what is the responsibility of the exporter, what is the obligation of the exporter, and what is the responsibility of the buyer, what is the obligation of the buyer. So, Incoterms, Anna, what is it? In layman's language, Incoterms defines as to when the risk gets passed from the exporter to the overseas buyer, when the delivery passes from the exporter to the overseas buyer. So this is what we mean by international commercial terms. Now, Priyadarshini has a question. Need few more points. Difference between checking buyers through ECGC and DNB agency. See, point number one, whenever you want to know the buyer, you should be sure about the buyer's track record, the buyer's line of business, and the buyer's creditworthiness. So, you can go through either a Dun and Bradstreet, you can go through Experian, you can go through the overseas bank of the buyer, or you can go through the various sources in India, like the Chambers of Commerce, the trade bodies, the ECGC. So, difference in the sense, DNB gives you a very exhaustive report. DNB they charge for it. நீங்க பேங்க் மூலமா போனா அரௌண்ட் 6,000 rupees ஆகும். நீங்க டைரக்டா போனா ஒரு 50,000 rupees ஆகும். So my suggestion is go through the banker. So if you go through the bank, provide all the details to the bank, bank will get you a DNB report on the buyer that carries exhaustive information. But once you take the DNB report and subsequently if the buyer makes a default, நீங்க DNB accountability போட முடியாது because DNB is only an agency. They give in the best interest of the trading community. Finally, at the end of the day, you should be comfortable with the buyer should be comfortable with you. So the understanding between the buyer and the exporter is very important. Okay, but these agencies like the DNB, the Experian, the overseas banks, the ECGC, the Chambers of Commerce, the trade bodies, including export promotion councils, they help you in knowing, but you cannot make them accountable in case if your transaction goes wrong. Finally, the comfort you have with the overseas buyer, the overseas buyer having comfort with the exporter is very important. So coming back to Incoterms, Incoterms define as to when the risk passes from the exporter to the overseas buyer, defines when the delivery passes from the exporter to the overseas buyer. So X works and you manufacture the goods and keep in your godown. So the risk passes as soon as you have kept the goods in the godown nominated by the buyer. So that means your risk is passed to the overseas buyer and the delivery passes to the overseas buyer. DDP in the last one, delivery duty paid. Delivery duty paid, you not only manufacture the goods, but you also take the goods to the overseas destination. You take the responsibility of exporting the goods, completing all the export formalities, and taking delivery of the goods in the overseas location, completing all the import formalities, and then delivering the goods to the godown of the buyer. That is called delivery duty paid. So there, the risk passes from the exporter to the buyer only when the goods are delivered at the buyer's location at his godown. The delivery passes when the goods are delivered to the buyer's location at his godown. So depending on what is your agreement, what is your negotiation with the overseas buyer, you can either agree for X works or you can agree for CIF, cost, insurance and freight, wherein you will bear the entire cover the insurance as well as the freight charges, or you can go for DDP. So depending on the understanding, depending on the negotiation capabilities between the buyer and the seller, you can agree for any of these Incoterms. Now we will come to the basic difference. So I will not go in detail about Incoterms. I will just give you some inputs as to what is the difference between Inco 2010 and Inco 2020. I would like to just give you a small pause. Please raise your questions on the chat box. If I am very fast, you can always tell me on the chat box if I am going faster so that I will go slow. Or If you feel that I'm going in the pace with which you are able to understand, I will retain the same pace. ஏன்னா சில டைம் என்ன ஆகுதுன்னா நம்ம ஃபாஸ்டா பேசும்போது you may not understand. So I'm trying to make slower, but if you feel I'm going faster, you please respond through your chat box. Or if you feel we are going in the same pace, I will go with the same pace. Because at the end of the day, நீங்களும் புரிஞ்சுக்கணும், for me also it should be satisfying. இவர் வந்தாரப்பா பேசினாரப்பா போனாரப்பா அப்படி இருக்கக்கூடாது. Because whatever I speak should be understood by you. Otherwise the purpose of the session will not get sorted out. Now difference between INCO 2020 and INCO 2010. உங்க பார்ட்டிசிபென்ட்ஸ்ல சில பேர் you are already exporters. You have been already doing exports and imports of goods and services. So you may be aware about INCO 2010. Now INCO 2020 from 1st January வந்திருக்கு. So what is the difference between INCO 2020 and INCO 2010? Keep in mind, INCO 2020 or 2010, it's a guidance document from the International Chambers of Commerce. இது வந்து legal கிடையாது. It's not a law. International Chambers of Commerce is not a legal authority. It's a guiding authority. So it has guided exporters and importers through various documents. And one such document is International Commercial Terms 2020. So இது வந்து நீங்க adhere பண்ணணும்னு கிடையாது. But only thing is, if you don't want to adhere to INCO, International Commercial Terms 2020, you have to agree with the buyer. If the buyer and the exporter agrees for not adhering to INCO Terms 2020, you can do it like that. There is no hard and fast rule that you should go for INCO Terms. But only thing is, if tomorrow there's a dispute between the exporter and the buyer, when it goes to the court of law will interpret INCO Terms 2020 or INCO 2. அப்போ கேட்பார் அவர், இன்கோல என்ன சொல்றாரு, INCO 2020 என்ன சொல்லியிருக்கார், INCO 2010 என்ன சொல்லியிருக்கார், நீங்க எதுக்கு இது ஃபாலோ பண்ணல? You may tell it's not a legal document, but still the courts recognize the interpretations given by the International Chambers of Commerce. So point number one, the first difference is FCA. There's an international commercial term called free carrier. Free carrier, what is the meaning of free carrier? The exporter manufactures the goods and he loads the goods on the carrier mentioned by the buyer. Free carrier என்னன்னா, நம்ம suppose for example Madurai, your exporter is in Madurai, say you are exporting say vegetables. Now Madurai-linde you are exporting the vegetables by whatever it is, air or sea, அது இப்போ கவலை இல்லை. So you have plucked, you have vegetables எல்லாம் பெருக்கியாச்சு. Now you have packed the vegetables and kept in the godown. Now free carrier anna, the exporter undertakes to load the goods in his carrier. That means he is paying the charges for loading the goods in the lorry or in the tempo. So now here, wherever there is a free carrier, FCA International Commercial Term, the buyer takes the responsibility of shipping the goods. So buyer can a responsibility, buyer vandu unga lorry la eduthendu, he will take it to the port or to the airport. He will ship the goods. Ship the goods anna, either he will place the goods inside the ship or he will place the goods in the aircraft. So the responsibility of the buyer is to take the transport documents. He will undertake to transport the goods by shipping the goods inside the ship or in the aircraft. That is free carrier. So ippo under INCO 2020, INCO Terms 2020, the buyer, that is your customer, your overseas buyer, should instruct the airport, aircraft or the ship to issue the bill of lading with onboard notation to the seller. இது earlier கிடையாது. இது earlier, since the buyer has the responsibility of transporting the goods, he was not giving any intimation to the supplier, to the exporter. But now INCO Terms 2020 says the buyer should instruct the transport operator, the transport owner, either the ship or the aircraft, to issue a bill of lading or a airway bill to the seller with onboard notation. Now next comes, wherever you are arranging transportation, wherever the buyer is arranging transportation or the seller is arranging transportation, under INCO 2020, you can use your own transport rather than using third parties. That is the second difference. The third difference, very important, wherever you are using the word CIP, CIP is carriage insurance paid to. இது வந்து land transportல வரும், railways or roadways. So wherever you are using the word CIP, carriage insurance paid to, here the insurance policy should cover all the risks involved, including the terrorism risk. So class A and solvo. So the current Incoterm 2020 says that wherever the insurance is covered by the exporter under CIP, the exporter should ensure under CIF cost insurance and freight, cost insurance paid to, carriage insurance paid to, and cost insurance and freight. So wherever you are using these two Incoterms and wherever the exporter is covering the insurance policy, you have to take the insurance policy with class A policy. Class A policy, it covers all risks. So that is now made mandatory. Now delivery at terminal earlier. Earlier, delivery at terminal and the delivery at terminal is removed now. And that is replaced by delivery at place unloaded. That is another international commercial term where the exporter takes the responsibility of unloading the goods at the destination of the buyer. So DPU and delivery at place unloaded. So Selvam Karupaya or question kudirkar, please explain in Tamil also. Now முடிஞ்ச அளவுக்கு தமிழ்ல explain பண்றேன், but there are certain terms where எனக்கு தமிழ்ல தெரியாது அந்த term என்னன்னு சொல்லி. So I will try to explain as far as possible, but I will be using English words because these are technical terms. So DPU, delivery at place unloaded anna, the exporter will undertake to deliver the goods, duly unloading the goods. So as an exporter, you are responsible for unloading the goods at the destination of the buyer. Suppose if you are exporting to say Dubai, Dubai unloading ninga da pananum if you are using the word DPU. Then the next difference is in today's INCO 2020, cost structures have been clarified. That is, what are the carrier charges you are paying? Lorry ki evlo pay pananum, shipping, freight charges evlo pay pananum. So these are all clearly defined under INCO 2020. The buyer and the seller should necessarily understand, and everything should be specified clearly with regard to carrier charges. Then the security concern. Under INCO 2020, mandatory screening of containers is done. So this is very important as far as the containers are concerned. That is, these are the responsibilities of the transport agents, the transporting authorities. So they have to mandatorily screen the containers wherever there is an export or an import transaction. Now we'll come to international payment terms. So international payment terms, this talks about movement of goods, movement of funds, and movement of documents. So international payment terms எப்படி pay பண்ணணும்னு சொல்லி. So now you are entering into a contract with the overseas buyer. Now how the payment should come? So as an exporter, when you are entering into a contract with the overseas buyer, advance payment, you will say that I want advance payment. And the buyer ஒத்துக்கிறார், I know you very well, so I'll make an advance payment. So that is called advance payment. So சவுந்தரராஜன்ல இருந்து ஒரு question இருக்கு. Kindly explain second point. என்ன அது second point? Second point provisions to allow for own transport. That is, wherever you are using a international commercial term, INCO term, where you are taking the care of transporting. இப்போ FCA na buyer undertakes to transport the goods. DAP, delivery at place na exporter undertakes to transport the goods. DPU, delivery at place unloaded na exporter undertakes to transport the goods. So wherever the exporter is bearing the transport cost, and wherever possible, and wherever it is possible to use your own transport, you can use your own transport. That is the change in INCO 2020 as compared to INCO 2010. புரிஞ்சதா? So this is what we mean by using your own transport wherever the INCO term provides for transportation to be borne by the exporter or the importer. Now advance payment is a model where the exporter will receive the payment in advance. Inge, wherever the exporter, you are an exporter, you are receiving the payment in advance. So Inge, you carry a least risk because you are getting the payment. Advance payment can be either 10%, 50%, 100%. So you are carrying least risk. But wherever the overseas buyer is making an advance remittance, he carries the highest risk. So advance payment is a situation where the exporter is benefited, but the importer carries the risk of non-receipt of goods. Now advance payment opposite open account and சொல்லி இருக்கு. Open account where the exporter ships the goods. நீங்க first பொருள் அனுப்புறீங்க, நீங்க first உங்க பொருள் அனுப்பி அதுக்கப்புறம் உங்களுக்கு பேமெண்ட் வரும். So you are carrying the highest risk. So in case of open account system, you carry the highest risk. So advance payment, you carry the least risk. Open account, you carry the highest risk. In between advance remittance and open account, you have two concepts. LC இருக்கு. LC where the risk is safeguarded. The risk of the buyer also is safeguarded. The risk of the exporter also is safeguarded. And documentary collections. Documentary collections na adile LC kadiyadanga. Documentary collections, documents move through the bank. Bank will not give commitment. See, under documentary collections, bank is not giving any commitment, but banks handle the documents. Under LC, bank gives the commitment on behalf of the buyer and documents move through the bank. So these are the 4 payment terms which are involved in an export transaction or an import transaction. So now Muhammad Haroon has a question. Trinity Global Impex. Please refer book for Incoterms. Yes, Incoterms நீங்க book தேவையில்லைங்க. நீங்க கூகுளுக்கு போய் Inco 2020 நீங்க டைப் பண்ணீங்கன்னா you will get the entire 11 commercial terms, including what are the responsibilities and obligations of the exporter and the buyer. நீங்க புக்கு கூட வாங்கலாம், அது ஒன்றும் ப்ராப்ளம் இல்லை. இருக்கு, நிறைய பப்ளிகேஷன்ஸ் இருக்கு. பட் ஐசிசி Incoterms ஆர் அவைலபிள் ஆன் பப்ளிக் டொமைன் ஃப்ரீ ஆஃப் காஸ்ட். ஸோ நீங்க கூகுளில் போய் Incoterms ஐசிசின்னு டைப் பண்ணுங்க, யூ வில் கெட் எ பிடிஎஃப் டாக்குமெண்ட். அது உங்க டெஸ்க்டாப்ல சேவ் பண்ணிக்கோங்க. அண்ட் யூ கோ த்ரூ தட். இட்ஸ் அரௌண்ட் 85 pages. இட் கண்டெய்ன்ஸ் எவ்ரிதிங் இன் டீடைல் about the responsibilities and obligations of both the exporter and the overseas buyer. If you are an exporter, if you are an importer, it narrates both the importer and the overseas supplier. Now Muhammad Haroon has a question. How the shipping documents moving in this lockdown period? Adu na explain pandren. I will come back. So now, movement of goods, movement of funds, and movement of documents. Now how the goods move? Now you are the exporter. You are the exporter sitting here and you are overseas buyer. So goods can move either through sea shipment, which we call bill of lading. Transport document on the bill of lading. If it moves through air, we call the airway bill. If it moves through lorry, we call lorry receipt. And if it goes through railways, we call railway receipts. And if the exports happen through post, we call post parcel receipts, or the courier receipts if it goes through courier. Now how the funds move? Inge nostro account, vostro account varum. Funds move between the banks. So inge how the funds move? I will just give you a small example of this. So the screen minimize pandre. So now you are an exporter in India. So when you are an exporter in India, you have an account with Canara Bank. So now you are exporting goods to the buyer in Dubai. So Dubai buyer ungalku panam anupanum. So as an exporter, you have to inform your Dubai buyer that I maintain account with Canara Bank. My current account number is this, and Canara Bank maintains account with Citibank. The dollar account number and the Citibank SWIFT code is this. These details ninga kodutha avanum. So any exporter receiving an inward remittance, you have to tell your overseas buyer what is your current account number or the CC account number with your banker. So in this case, Canara Bank. So you have to tell my current account number with Canara Bank is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Canara Bank has a dollar account with Citibank New York. The dollar account number is this, and the SWIFT code should be given. So unga buyer enna pandra, he has an account with Mashreq Bank UAE. So he will tell Mashreq Bank UAE, you debit my account and make payment to Citibank New York for onward credit to Canara Bank's account and final credit to my exporter in India. So this is how funds get settled. So unga customer ku Mashreq Bank la account irukku. Mashreq Bank has a Nostro account with JP Morgan. That is okay. That is called the Nostro account for Mashreq Bank. So Bunga Bank, they have an account with Citibank. So this is how funds move between the buyer and the exporter. So now how the movement of documents happen? Movement of documents happens, see, as an exporter. Now you are an exporter. You have already exported the goods. So one is movement of goods. Movement of goods through go through either sea or air or lorry or railways or post or courier. Now how the funds move? Funds move through the Nostro channel or through the Vostro channel. And how the documents move? Documents moves from exporter. As an exporter, you can directly dispatch the documents to your buyer. That is permissible. The first one, you can dispatch the documents directly to the overseas buyer. You can dispatch the documents to the overseas buyer's bank, or the safe method is give it to your exporter's bank. So when you are exporting the documents directly to the buyer, ninga porulu anupiyachi, documents buyer anupiyachi, and this is called open account system. Ninga porulu anupiyachi, documents bank ku teringa to the overseas bank. That is called documentary collections. And ninga porulu anupadhukku appuram documents unga bank ku koduthu unga bank overseas bank anupradhu. That is called documentary collections. So movement of documents happen either directly to the buyer by the exporter, or the exporter can dispatch to the buyer's bank, or the exporter's bank, who in turn will disperse the documents to the buyer.